Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Cyndi Burnett.
And my name is Dr. Matthew Wowood.
This is the Fueling Creativity in Education podcast.
On this show, we'll be talking about creativity topics and how they apply to the field of education.
We'll be speaking with scholars, educators, and resident experts about their work, challenges they face, and digging deeper into new and varying perspectives of creativity.
All with the goal to help fuel a more rich and informed discussion that provides teachers and parents with knowledge they can use at home or in the classroom.
So let's begin.
Hello and welcome back to our 6th episode of the Listen and Learn series. And as a reminder, this is our summer series for professional learning, and we will be sharing 10 actions that teachers can take to facilitate or enhance creativity in the classroom.
These 10 actions emerge from over 200 tips that we've gathered during our podcast interviews with creativity researchers, educators, and talented practitioners.
During each episode of our Listen and Learn series, we will share one action and encourage you to generate a 1 or 2 sentence summary of how you can apply that action in your classroom for the upcoming school year.
To help you with this task, we've created a Google spreadsheet that lists the action, includes some takeaways from us, and a space for you to include your 1 or 2 sentence summary. The link to this spreadsheet is included in each episode's description. Additionally, if you want to join me in an online discussion, check out the creativethinkingnetwork.com.
So our action, and I do want to remind our listeners that the actions are not in any particular order, but our 6th action in the Listen and Learn series is build relationships. And our first interview clip comes from our discussion with Juliet Desailly.
I think my first one would be to really get to know your children, to find out what engages them, what motivates them. And it will be different. Every group of children is slightly different. And of course, within that, you've got individuals who are also different. Now, I'm not saying that we need to devise a curriculum for each individual child. That would be brilliant, but it's impossible. But for the cohort that you have, find out what fascinates them, what will really get them going. Because once they want to learn, once they are engaged and excited in whatever you're giving them, then to be honest, you can't stop them. And they will be asking you for the skills that they need to learn, for the particular knowledge that they need to gain in order to apply it to whatever situation you've given them. So that's my first thing.
Matt, I love that connection piece. And I think it's so important in building those relationships early on in the school year within the first week. And I recall this teacher, a friend of mine, Jonathan Guerra, shout out to him, who would invite students to ask him any question that they would like. And in return, he got to ask them the same question. And he did a little bit of that at the start of each class period for the first month of school. And he really got to know his students and they really got to know him, which ultimately built the trust and openness that was required to allow creativity to really flourish in his classroom.
Oh, I love that as a strategy. You know, you ask me a question, I get to ask you the same question back. That's a wonderful strategy to take away. And I think one of the things that you emphasized was about building the relationship early on. You know, we speak a lot about identifying, you know, interests and passions. And, you know, this is something that we've come to again and again. And, you know, right now I'm thinking about our episode with Dr. Elizabeth Redday and around passion projects. But in order for you to kind of identify what your students are into, you have to be able to ask the questions that you're talking about. In order for you to ask those questions, you have to establish relationships, you know, or rather, let me rephrase this. In order for you to solicit the responses that you want, you have to establish, I think, those relationships. So relationships are so important. And the other thing that I took from that clip there from Juliet Desailly was the fact that, you know, every group of students is a little bit different. And I think that's really important for teachers that have been teaching the same grade at the same school for year 5, year 6, year 7. It might be that we start to develop some assumptions within our practice about the groups of students that are coming into our classroom environment on that first day, first week, first month. And for me, this tip is about kind of just challenging your assumption a little bit and by asking some of these questions and building these relationships early on.
Well, Matt, should we listen to Lola Schnapp's?
Yes, let's listen to Lola.
And don't do it alone. I mean, you can try for a while, but you're never going to be able to stick with it for a long time if you're doing it by yourself. So you need to find your kindred spirit or your creative tribe to test things and try things out and, have each other's back. I need to, shade my whole classroom by, in 5 minutes before students come in because I'm going to do a space unit and we're launching it. So you need to have people that are going to help you to come up with those crazy things.
Oh, Matt, you know that Lola is a good colleague of mine and we've written a book together. And I just love this idea of finding other teachers who are similar to you, your own creative community of educators. And this could be in your school. It could be outside of your school in similar networks, at conferences. And it's actually one of the reasons why Katie Trowbridge and I, from Curiosity to Create, built the Creative Thinking Network, is so that educators could have a community of people that they could share new ideas with and share their celebrations and share their failures, because that's part of being creative, a creative educator as well, is having failures where you try something and perhaps, it worked for you before, but this time it may not work and you try something different and you need some time and people to reflect with. So I love this tip around building those connections because it's both with other colleagues who are teachers as well as maybe administrators and with students.
And coming back to the build relationships, it's about making that effort to build relationships within your community as an educator. And I totally will do another shout out to the Creative Thinking Network that you've put together and is linked in the show notes, because that's a community where probably people listening to this podcast can identify like-minded individuals, but you have to still go and engage in the different activities that are available on those networks in order to build those relationships. Same as when you go to conferences, there is a need to establish relationships. And even in Twitter communities and other online communities that exist, find ways to establish relationships, and I think they can come in different forms, but it's important that you're in a relationship where you can get feedback and share ideas and make yourself vulnerable.
So before we go, we want to remind our listeners engaged in our Listen and Learn series that we're raffling away various prizes. First, you will need to listen out to the end of each of these episodes for a single letter, which will help you to identify a code word. Think a Christmas story. So once you've identified the code word, you simply need to email me or Matt with the code word at questions@fuelingcreativitypodcast.com with a 1 or 2 sentence summary of how you plan to implement one of the 10 actions for creativity. And then you get to choose a prize. So you need to do this before the end of August. So Matt, would you like to give?
Yes. Our 6th letter, drum roll please, is the letter I.
Innovate.
Intention.
Integrate.
Ignore.
Infuse.
Infusing creativity in education. We're going to end there. My name is Dr. Matthew Werwood.
And my name is Dr. Cyndi Burnett.